We are definitely rolling.
He knows it here now.
And you're on.
Welcome to American Heritage Center Radio. This is Adam Sheffield, the property therapist for America. Wanna know where is my tool bucket? Who took it from me? Broke into my house the night and stole from me. Using a blowtorch to spite insanity. Then got a rocket through the window, the back door window. Snuck into the house, that foolish bucket full. Took it to the pawn shop to get money. Need your hands here now. Hey, dude, man, coolest thing around. Got my show now. You're my hands right now. Welcome to American Heritage Center Radio. This is the soul of America, home of the Property Therapy and Talent Development Program. This is Adam Sheffield live from the American Heritage Center Theater in Independence, Missouri. We have a great show tonight, or this afternoon for you. We're going to talk property stories with my co-host, John Pine. And then we're going to be interviewing HVAC Tony, and then put him to the test on the Contractor Olympics to see if he can walk the walk and not just talk the talk. He's going to be testing the A-coil. He's going to be taking the A-coil test to see if the A-coil will hold pressure, if it's a good A-coil. So let's talk some property stories, my dear radio listeners. We have today in the news, there's a lot going on. This is really a troubled times, a very tumultuous times, isn't it, John?
Getting crazy out there.
We have the lots of monuments that are coming down. We have the Redskins have abandoned their name. We have Jessica Walker and others talking all lives matter, being attacked, and she was killed. And then we have the Antifa and the media wanting everybody else to clean up the damage and wanting everyone else to pay for it. Then we have a lot of accusations of fascism, socialism going on. So let's talk some property stories, John. Let's talk about the Confederate monuments. They have just in Richmond, Virginia, for instance, they just voted to take down the 21-foot tall Robert E. Lee Memorial that's in the square in Richmond, Virginia, where I went to school. I went to undergrad. We were there doing our mission, and I went to Virginia Commonwealth University, so I'm familiar with that area. And one of the reasons that I wanted to go to school in Virginia, especially in the heart of Richmond, was the heart of the Confederacy. I wanted to see what was going on today, to see what the status was in the heart of the Confederacy, to see if there was racism present there. And when I was there in school I was there for several years pursuing my degree in music, and I never ran across people that were hating blacks. In all the years of the tens of thousands of people that I met, I didn't have there was the only person that I met was this one guy that was our neighbor that put up the Confederate flag when we moved out because he didn't want the blacks moving in next door, and he was not a good person.
Yeah, so you run into those every once in a while. They're the outliers. But if you look at the way the media portrays people, you would think there's a lot more of them than there actually is. But how many do you actually know? And when you talk amongst your friends, they actually have these attitudes towards black people, and nobody that I know does. I wouldn't be friends with them if they did. It's just when you look at the news, and it just seems like there's a lot more going on in the news than what actually is going on in the real world.
Yeah, the monuments many of them were erected at the time in the civil rights era when the when they were starting to, they saw through the separate but equal mythology that said, we're giving equality here, but we just don't want to be around them. And it was based on spite. So it was a haze. And so under Brown v. Board of Education, the famous case, they saw through that. They say, if you have separate, when there's one side that's forcing the separation, that's controlling society, you're never gonna have equal. And it was based on the law student that was applied for, or a case like this was based on a law student that applied for Harvard and he couldn't get in because he was black. And they said, well, you'll never be equal because you'll never have the prestige if you can't get into the white schools.
Yeah, it's definitely true.
And so you have, but you have right here. So these monuments were parts of that was a desperation of feeling that they're losing control over that, and also part of the sense that they are trying to save face. Do you think so?
Yeah, and it seems like more if we would just now use that as an element to teach history. It's not like we're making gods out of these people. And we want to go back to that. It's just use that as a tool to teach history instead of tearing that down. And if we do tear it down, do it in a democratic way with some law and order, because we're a nation of laws and order, and it needs to be done that way.
That's true, because if we want the process has got to be in the proper way, which is what they're doing in Richmond, Virginia. They voted to deconstruct. They're going to cut it in pieces and then reassemble it somewhere where it's not in such a glaring public space. In the democratic process, in the civil way, that's something. But there's another way, the even more powerful option that we've talked about at the Heritage Center is leaving them in place, but change the placards around them to learn to be wiser than we have been. So, and to understand the suffering, because we want the kids in our generation to know the bloody mess that happened and who was leading this bloody mess, and to understand to frame it right so that the kids can know that we're not adulating these people. I mean, you can sympathize with the state rights, but you don't sympathize with the state rights for wrongs.
Yeah, it's like a monument does not have to glorify something. It can just be part of your history. I mean, I'm sure there's Pearl Harbor monuments. They're not glorifying the attack. They're it's just a marker of our history. Needs to be recognized.
Yes, understanding history so that we don't repeat the history, right? Because we don't want supremacy, racial supremacy, white supremacy, black supremacy. We just want property therapy supremacy.
Yeah, property doesn't know what color the owner is.
Yeah, we want people taking care of property, having property, taking care of property, because that gets them leverage in their lives. And there's too much going on there. There's been too much historically of the people abusing and using racial segments in society and using race schism, trying to foment racism, like a synthetic racism, to get them to keep stimulate the voter turnout. And regardless of, and we're going to talk about with HVAC Tony about this, is that there's a difference between objective and subjective racism. Objective racism is whether it's there or not. You can discuss it, but subjective racism is if you think it's there, then it's there. If you think it, then it's there. And if you're thinking it, then it interferes with your ability to function.
Yeah, if you're always looking for it, you're going to find it somewhere eventually, whether it's just something that you feel or it's something that just actually happened to you, and you don't realize that happens to other people, whether they're your race or not. But it's something, it's that thought's in your mind that this has to be racist, and it could be racist, and then that's your thought process automatically goes to that if that's what you've been told.
You hear a lot about this. They talk, the Black Lives Matter talk about systemic racism that's baked into the cake, into the system and whatnot. And that's defined. This comes out of the Democrats' policy penchant that they have for social justice, which is not the same as civil rights. Social economic justice is like leveling, seeking for equality of outcomes, but it's not civil rights. And we need to understand that the difference between civil rights and social justice, and that the Republican Party, they were instrumental in passing the Civil Rights Bill in the 1960s, and all the Democrats voted against it. And there's this myth that all the parties shifted it's called the Southern Strategy myth, and it alleges that all the Republicans could only appeal to the South by appealing to their baser racist natures, and therefore that's what happened. But actually what happened was, it wasn't until decades and decades later, after the 1960s, that the South started voting started voting for the Republicans, but this was based that what they did it's based on this thesis of social justice, and the Democrats started using the Great Society and the FDR, the largesse, and trying to give people hope and whatnot, and started financially giving a lot of handouts and whatnot to the black community, and it sucked the black voters away from the Republican Party, but it destroyed black enterprise.
Yeah, it seems to be that way.
The enterprise is what the society rides on. Everything rides on the back of enterprise.
Yeah, the individual who gets out there and puts himself to work and doesn't rely on the government.
And under there are many lifelong Democrats, wonderful people, and the Democratic Party has given hope to a lot of people, and ensuring equal opportunity. And I want to preface everything that we say about that, the hope that they have given, like in the Great Depression and whatnot. Even here in Kansas City, like Pendergast, he was here. He was a mob boss, and he put Truman into power. But the thing was, I mean, he had corruption, but he still gave hope to a lot of the workers and whatnot. And we want to see that. And they understand, the Democrats understand historically what the Democrat Party is becoming now. It's not this anymore. It's becoming a rubble mess. But historically, the Democrat Party has helped give a lot of hope to people. And where the Democrats get in trouble is when they start, and they're getting worse at this, is trying to declare equal outcomes. We want equal opportunity, but equal outcomes is if people have their free agency.
Yeah, so you need to do an equal amount of work to get your equal outcome, and not just hope for it.
Yeah, today we are our own slaves. People aren't property anymore, but we are our own property, right? We're our own slaves.
We're our own masters also.
Yeah. We are the masters of ourselves, and we're the slaves that makes ourselves work. And John and I are attest to this. John and I just went to one of his rental properties that he's property therapying right now, and it's a master work. It's a magnum opus at the moment.
Yeah, lots of work to be done there. We'll get some pictures up on the Facebook page.
Yeah, so we don't. There's no white supremacy or black supremacy, but there's property therapy supremacy. The people that know how to take care of properties and don't know how they get property. That's how it works. If you got property therapy skills, you start getting a property, starts coming with you. And once you know how to take care of property, you have property, you get leverage in your life. It stabilizes you, and you can help move into the bright horizon. And that's what we want. We're going to talk to HVAC Tony about that. He's a property therapist from the HVAC realm, and he's going to be teaching the Freon licensure class here at the Heritage Center. Okay, so the Confederate monuments, let's not destroy our history or try to steal our history, but let's reframe the history to truly be a learning lesson for the kids. Let's not steal the history, but let's learn from the history. Let's change the placards around the monuments to learn to be wiser than these people were.
We can call that a teachable moment.
Right. We want
phrase from the previous administration, a teachable moment.
A teachable moment, exactly. And that there's nothing wrong with the state rights and local control, but we don't want state rights for wrongs. Right.
That's right.
So we talked about Confederate monuments, and that's the monuments depicting history, but there's also history in a personal way that people carry around with them. And we're shifting to the topic of credit scores, which is the history that people have in their lives.
Yes, what the credit grantors and decision makers to see what it's going to cost you to borrow money. It's very important.
Yeah, the credit scores helps to predict the future, and lenders, insurance agents, landlords, all use the credit scores. And the cell phone companies and the utility companies, and whether the utility companies look at your credit scores on whether or not to require a security deposit, and if so, how much deposit to require. And then the cell phone companies use the credit scores to show which payment plan you may be eligible for and whether any security deposit is required. And of course, the landlords use credit scores on how much a deposit they may require for you. So that's who's checking for the credit scores. And the credit scores, and this is feeds right into the property therapy, because all the stuff that, this property that needs property therapy right now, and the destruction and whatnot, to rebuild lives, they're gonna be looking at credit scores to see, like, is this person's a good risk or whatnot, and what do they have plans, feasible plans in the future that we can believe in this person. And so that's the power of the credit score. So this is why it fits in the property therapy, the property stories portion of the show, is it predicts the future. And I just took a credit score class and for my broker's license renewal, and we talked about in the class how credit scores, they control the future. And if the insurance companies, for instance, rely on the credit scores to set your rates, because desperate people do desperate things. And they've done research, and it's objective research, that the lower your credit score, the more likely you are to file claims to try to get money from the insurance companies.
Yeah, you can think of your credit score as like a personal responsibility score, like what in your life have you been able to take personal responsibility for and be a good steward of your own financial history.
How many of these Antifa protesters do you think have credit scores?
I would not want to see their average.
Yeah, if they have them, and if they have them, they're probably a bit abysmal. Because you know why you know they're abysmal? It's because they disrespect other properties.
Yeah.
And that's a telltale sign that they disrespect. They can't take a property in their own lives, because if they actually knew how to take care of property in their own lives, there's no way they would be disrespecting other people's properties.
Yeah, as someone who's painted a lot of cars, it would not be within my realm of ability to ever take a key to someone else's car or to flip it over or set it on fire, because I know how much work it takes to paint a car and to make it a shiny, perfect car. It's just something, your heart just doesn't have it in it once you've done that work.
Oh, I remember after being a real estate entrepreneur myself for like 10, 15 years before I got into law school, it's affected my psyche. Like when I would go to Walmart, I would see trash in the parking lot, and I would start picking up the trash in the parking lot. It was painful for me, because I knew I have dealt with this on my properties.
For me, it's like I even put other people's cars in the cart barn, because I know what it's like to have a scratch on your car. I know what it takes to fix that, and how much work, so when I see just a loose cart floating around, I'll go out of my way to put that cart up, just so somebody else doesn't have to go through that and live through, seeing that scratch on that car that they worked for.
That's FTS, following the spirit. You come get your FTS rings. And when you got at the Heritage Center, we were just getting the shipment in, we got 250 rings. We got size 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 250 of them. The FTS stands for Follow the Spirit in your lives. And following the Spirit helps you take good care of others, take care of property, and that's what we want. So let's talk about credit scores, how to raise our credit scores, and some of the tips that, the most powerful tips that you can do to raise your credit scores. And if you want to buy some property, just give me a call at 816-674-3035, or if you want to sell property, just give me a call. My broker's license at 816-674-3035, and we can help you get your credit score raised up. And some of the things that will help you raise your credit score so you can qualify for loans and financing is on your credit cards, keep raising your credit limit. Like every month, say, hey, can you raise my credit limit? And I have several credit cards, and I kept on doing it and push it to the max. They'll put your score way up if you keep on asking them.
Yeah, if you're a good steward with what they do give you, then over a period of time, they'll allow you to raise that up.
And why this is so good to have high credit limits on your cards is because it shows you have a lot of access to money, but you don't blow it off. You're not a desperate person. You know how to manage your money, and it looks really good. So whenever and another tip is the debt to credit limit ratio. You want to keep it at 30%. Never go, that's the sweet spot right there. You never want to go higher than that ratio right there, because it affects your credit score.
Yeah, I use an app called Credit Karma. It's free, no affiliation with us, but I think it's one that even like Clark Howard, some of the financial advisors and consumer advocates recommend. It's a website, it's an app on your phone called just creditkarma.com. You can type your info in there and see where you're at, and sometimes they even give recommendations on what you can do to improve your score, and it shows you everything in one place.
Okay, so credit scores is keep your limits up, and also the lengths of your accounts, how long they've been open. If you've got a lot of credit cards, never, ever, 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 ever close down the cards that you've had forever, ever, because that's your money thing, your credit card money thing right there. Because they look at the length of account
History,
right there, and then they look at the limits that or the debt to credit limit ratio. They look to that. They look to your payment history, so be timely on your payments, and then the job, and then they look for the kind of accounts that you have, and the number of accounts that you have.
mortgages or second mortgages. I mean, they affect it differently.
Yeah, they have, especially if you have like a diversity of accounts. If you have unsecured credit, which is credit cards, and then like if you have a mortgage, and then maybe like a car loan or something like that, or a vendor credit card like from Best Buy or something. But so that's a lot like diversity of cards, and also the length of the history, and then the timeliness of the history, and then also
on time payments. Right?
Yeah, that's right, on time payments, and then the other thing is that to clean up your credit is pull your credit report and look on there to see if you have any bankruptcies or things on there that should have fallen off, because there's under there on credit reports there's one figure I read that 76% of the people have wrong stuff on their credit score.
Yeah, you go on there, make sure everything on there is true, and dispute anything that's not.
Yeah, and when you pull your credit report, you have 30 days from pulling that report to send a letter of dispute to any of the vendors. And if any of the vendors or any of the people that put complaints on your credit do not respond in 30 days, it's gone. Under the FCRA, which is the Federal Debt Reporting Act, if the vendors do not respond in the 30 days, it's wiped off your credit, because they have to renew saying, yeah, this guy owes me money.
Yeah, you don't go tear the place down or set it on fire. You just do it the legal way.
That's right. So, okay, so we've talked about, so that's a powerful thing. So call me at A1 Zion Realty. We will get you set up with some financing to buy some properties. We'll get you in the network, because we want to see people getting properties in their lives and being able to, if you got properties you want to sell, just give us a call at 816-674-3035, like one of the properties that we have, so we have several listings right now that are on the lakes, and Lafayette Lakes and Tarzan Lakes, and right now they're out further in the country, which is advantageous, because this is raw land that people can get. Just give me a call if you're interested in these properties on the lake. And a lot of people are moving out of the urban centers into the rural country now, aren't they?
Yeah, I've seen some stories this week about they call it a flight to the neighborhoods outside the major cities. The property values will be going up, and the inner cities, the property values aren't going to be doing so well.
So give me a call at 816-674-3035 if you're interested in some land, a lot of land. So that's credit score. So we're talking property stories right now. We've talked about the Confederate monuments and credit scores. And another thing that we've seen in the news today is that the Redskins just abandoned their name.
Yeah, and the stories I was reading about is they really couldn't find anyone who was really that offended by it. That's why I'm a little puzzled.
Yeah, so it's just probably the aggregation of year after year, the media just harping on it, and then like what happened with the rioting and whatnot, it's just like, it was just depressing.
There's a great sense that people are offended, it's just, when it comes down to actually finding these people,
Yeah, so here's the situation on, is Redskins the racial slur? See, I look at this in the sense that you can, like the term Mormon, that was originally devised by the anti-Mormons. And they say, oh, those dang Mormons! And so what happens is, but the Mormons adopted that, and then they like blended the spear points, and then they ended up using the terms themselves. And for 150 years, now they're emphasizing on Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to try to appear more mainstream, historically mainstream. But still, the term Mormon is become an honorable term. And so the Redskins, a lot of the tribes out there are saying this exhibits our awesome prowess of competitiveness. And it puts us in the public eye right now, and thinking about our legacy.
and maybe they won the Super Bowl, it would help.
Right,
They
right.
say, hey, we're winners, we won the Super Bowl, the Redskins are winning.
So you can make out everything to be angry if you have racism clogging your A coils, and we're going to talk about what that means, racism and A coils, and the A coil. We'll get to that later with HVAC towing. And so, but seriously, the Redskins. The reason that this is based on is the anger that they're protesting this name is because of the historical. They say that America treated the Indians unfairly. And Indian is the term, the white privilege term. Native American is the red privilege term. So they're saying that the America treated the Indians or the Native Americans, will be balanced, we'll say Indian or Native American term, but the thing is, stop attacking America for this. It wasn't the American, it was the Democratic Party that did this historically. Now I'm not with the Andrew Jackson and the Trail of Tears. And you have, even today though, you have the modern day Trail of Tears. It's the Holocaust, as there was the genocide back then caused by the Democratic Party. Today you have with the abortion is the modern day Trail of Tears.
Yes.
And what it is it's a reoccurring issue that the Democrat Party historically has had, is of calling persons property. It's like that's what they do in abortion. The abortionists are considering the fetus or pre-baby property of the woman. Therefore, it's property. You can destroy it, you can buy or sell it or whatnot. But if it's a person or a pre-person, it has some respect that you have to do. And so the Democrats have always had this issue because the Republicans are more for freedom and enterprise, and the Democrats are more for comfort. And so they're trying to make it comfortable for the woman. So in the process, though, they're causing, again, they always have this issue, making it comfortable for the established people, is that they wanted to make it comfortable for the Americans, so they push the genocidal, they push the Indians or natives away, the Trail of Tears, and so they want to make it comfortable for the women, so they push the fetus baby, they chop it up and suck it out and whatnot. And so it's a reoccurring history. And so this Redskins logo is based on this. This is underlying that.
And wasn't that designed by a Native American? The logo itself?
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think I read somewhere that it was.
So comfort is a good thing, and the Democrats like in the hope that they've given. So it's just about it's like not going so far in creating the genocide elements. It's having the insight of what's going on here, being able to truly understand history. Because those that truly understand history control the future. And so they're trying to work and damage in our history, and then try to cancel out America to enforce some kind of Marxist utopia.
Yes, they're really doing a number on history.
So with the Black Lives Matter, that the Redskins logo, it leads to instances like with Jessica Walker. Tell us about that. What happened to her?
Let's see here. It's
The 24-year-old woman. And she said about the all lives matter, and so she proclaimed that all lives matter in the what was the story? Tell us the story.
That looks like she was out for a walk along the Indianapolis Canal Walk around 3 a.m. on July 5th. That was probably just a late night, July 4th. Maybe they were all still up. Fireworks are still going off, maybe. And yeah, it says maybe someone in her group had used a racial slur, but there was another group, and somehow they both had guns, and so they kind of squashed their argument because they didn't want anybody to get hurt. But then, not too long after that, she got shot.
After she said,
all lives matter. Well, the group they were arguing with, somebody said Black Lives Matter, and then it's the argument that people are having right now is, they're going around chanting that Black Lives Matter, and then she says, well, all lives matter, which is the I guess they take that as something hateful.
that's right.
A hateful response.
Yeah. So what this is because of the historically the entitlement states, it's destroyed black enterprise, and the black lives do not matter in the enterprising way because of what has happened with the Democratic Party, but what we want we understand what the Democrats' concerns are, like with of going after the big companies and the big like Amazon.com, and they're just getting so huge, right? And we want to be able to take. I understand about being able to tax the wealthy and the big businesses and whatnot, because life gets easier the bigger that you get. But instead of using those tax money to fund the entitlement state that destroy the enterprise in the black community, funnel that money to enterprise, to the small businesses, to help them compete with the big box stores. Because we want to fund purpose-driven lives. We don't want to fund entitlement states. Because we've talked about how the entitlement state creates a lack of upward mobility.
Yeah.
Like Adam Carolla and whatnot.
Yeah. One of the other shocking facts about the story, maybe you didn't hear the news, it was the third shooting in that same area in the week.
So we don't want what the Black Lives Matter. The way that they're behaving is they're seeking black supremacy. We don't want any racial supremacy, black supremacy, white supremacy. Again, we want property, therapy, supremacy. People taking care of their properties. We want people restoring the blight in their communities. We want to protect people who's poured all their hearts and dreams into these businesses, in these communities. We want to help that in the Heritage Center. That's why we're going to be involved with, for instance, like the burglar bars.
Yeah, and just instead of burning all this energy out there protesting, learn some skills and be able to fix things. Start a business like we're trying to do with these burglar bars, where we'll be taking orders for to help secure people's houses. For if they're living in an area where the crime's going up, like this area that we're talking about, we'll be able to help them secure their property.
Because if you secure your property, it helps secure a safe harbor for your talents and dreams, and helps you move into the bright horizon. And we want to see that, and we want to help. We want to help channel all these protesters. And I in a way, I respect I respect them and the desire that they have to try to move things forward, because we want Black lives to matter in the enterprising way. Because all life, it rides on the back of enterprise. Enterprise is what funds the schools, property taxes, sales taxes and whatnot, and enterprise creates the property owners, stewardship and whatnot. And enterprise not only funds the universities, it funds the like NASA, the governmental agencies. It funds the police system, the hospitals. It's the purpose-driven existence. We want Black lives to matter in the enterprising way.
Yeah, it just seems like so much energy is focused into destroying things. Get out and protest. It just seems like so much wasted energy to me, when they could be out, working on learning something, just being successful, starting a business, or helping someone. helping someone in their family join a church. There's lots of ways you can get out and find ways to be successful without holding a sign and setting something on fire.
Exactly. So if you've got burning down property and causing all that, this creates what's fun. And this leads us to the next topic. We've talked about Jessica Walker and the Redskins and credit scores and the monuments, and it leads us to this next story about the Minnesota applying for the property therapy relief from the federal government after they didn't do a thing. Tell us about that.
They're trying to get a federal disaster declaration for the extensive fire damage and other destruction from that unrest that followed George Floyd's death in Minneapolis. And they're going after some FEMA money. Looks like they're saying it damaged around 1,500 businesses in Minneapolis and St. Paul at a cost of about $500 million. That's 500 million. $500 million. And even the public infrastructure, they're claiming $15 million in damages. And they're trying to get this reimbursement from the federal government.
And so Trump turned them down. He said, you had an opportunity to control your own house, but you let it run rise. And so the media is liable in part here for the property destruction, for fomenting the riots, for never reporting the full stories because they want to create contention and sell, get viewership ratings. So the media is liable here for crying fire in a crowded room because they know a segment of the population, if they're susceptible to groupthink, and if they cry foul and not tell the full story, they could get some liability there. And then the Antifa liability through George Soros liability is funding all these groups. Defund George Soros.
Yeah, and I also saw where CNN was reporting some record ratings, which means their advertising rates are going up. So maybe they can get some of that money from them for help creating that story.
That's right. And the irony of the name Antifa, what does that stand for? Anti-fascist, right? And so the fascism and social. Let's talk though. It leads us to the final property story here. Let's talk about fascism and socialism, because historically, socialism and communism communism is a more extreme form of socialism, and fascism historically has arisen from socialistic beginnings that have gone awry. Like Hitler was from the Socialist Party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fascism that Hitler was talking about came out of, he was talking, I'm going to make Germany great again, and Trump's talking, I'm going to make America great again. And but what is the difference in the histories of Germany versus the histories of America?
I think what we found out was that Hitler's idea of making Germany great was to make it take over the entire world.
Yeah, so Germany had a legacy of what they called the De Führer principle, which was called the leader principle, which is the strong man leading the country, which is they had their Kaisers and the kings for centuries. And it wasn't until the Weimar Republic they had a brief, like 20 years of democracy, and they couldn't handle it, like the people having rights, and so they willingly gave them all up to Hitler, saying, okay, you take over again.
Yep, giving up the rights for some security, and it doesn't work out very well.
So re-imbuing that legacy of the authoritarian legacy is not the legacy of America, is it? But